guys, welcome to the long-awaited advanced method of parallel rolling offsets. This is Holmes Law. My name is Mel. Welcome to the show. Now, basically, to make this not as long as it's supposed to be, because honestly, this took me a little while to actually record. I do apologize for taking this long to get this out to you guys, but been busy. Anyhow, to actually make this a little shorter, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go walk through most of the slides with you. But if you actually want the examples, like a live example, okay, I'm gonna actually post an example on how to go through all the problems on my Discord. Okay, it'll be on my Discord, and I'll put them in the room for the announcement room. Okay, or once you get in there, you can ask or message me, and I'll let you know where they are if you can't find them. Also, I'll be posting them in my Facebook group, The Art of Conduit Bending. I'll post them in there as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get it going. All right, so this here is the first slide here. Okay, the beginning of the actual process on how to actually start measuring and getting your calculations going for this. Now, just to get it started, okay, and to get this going a little quickly, most of this stuff, if you've watched all the previous advanced bending videos, you should already know most of this stuff already, okay, because it's basically all the same. All right, now the letters just basically say what it is of the part of the conduit that it is. All right, so A basically is the measurement, as it says on the screen, from the end of the conduit to the center of the first bend. Okay, F is the distance required to make the offset, and so on. Okay, and you can actually pause the screen and read this as you need to go. All right, so let's get to the next slide where it actually matters. All right, and you actually see how we're going to do an actual rolling offset. Okay, you see that the inside conduit is the bottom one, and so forth, as the outside one starts going to the higher portion of your rack. Okay, now here is where we start to get, where the calculations we actually start doing. All right, so as you see, they're all broken down into steps. All right, and basically step 3 is you're gonna actually determine the angle for all your conduits. All right, now basically that's not gonna happen like how you usually do it, with the standard offsets. Okay, the angle of your offsets are gonna be determined by your calculations as far as the your rise and how much of the horizontal over you need to go, how much roll you need to do in order to get to your target. All right, so it's going to be basically determined on the measurements that you're gonna be taking out in the field. All right, so step 4, okay, determine the side hypotenuse for all your conduits. Okay, like I said, this becomes side S for each conduit. If you don't know what like what letter it determines to, you could always rewind it and see side S is the rise, or whatever letter I'm actually referring to. Because on this slide and for this advanced method, we just I basically just call them letters whenever I'm actually referring to a certain part of the conduit. Okay, but you should know that already if you've been watching this. Now you should watch the first 3 videos, because those are the most important videos in order to know how to actually use this method. All right, okay, so for the hypotenuse, basically what you're going to do is you're going to divide the opposite side by the sine of the angle. Okay, and before you find that angle, you're going to have to find it by doing the opposite side by the adjacent. It's going to give you the tangent, and whatever that tangent is, it's going to be the same number you're going to use for the sine. Okay, and that's going to give you the hypotenuse, which is going to give you a number value. All right, so to determine the side A for conduit 1, and to determine the side B conduit 1. It's basically something that you're going to have to find out in the field. It all depends on where you want to start your offset. That's all that is side A and B is where you want to start it and where you're basically going to end it at. So wherever you have side A, it's basically going to be the same thing on the other end of your conduit for side B. Okay. Determining F for your triangle on the conduit 1. We will get to that. Okay, so determining the degree of bend for conduit 1. Alright, it says, remember this is the degree of bend for the offset. Alright, now to do that, you're basically, like it says here, you're dividing side S, which is the same thing as the opposite side, by F, which is the same thing as your adjacent side. Okay, that's going to give you the tangent of your degree of bend. Okay, sorry about that. I'm over here trying to, move to the next slide. All right, and basically, if you follow all of these steps as it is, you should not have a problem, because I'm telling you, these steps are very, well written out, and it's broken down pretty easy. All right. To determine side M for the first conduit, you're simply just going to divide the side opposite by the sine, okay, which is going to equal your hypotenuse for the side M. And this is all going to come, you're going to understand what this all means as we go further into it. Okay. Now, this picture here is basically just showing you, how we're going to actually get our parallel spacings in between each other. Okay. Basically, you're just going to whatever degree of bend that you have. Okay, for each individual one, you're gonna do what you usually do for the advanced method to get parallel offsets. Okay, you're gonna take half of the degree of bend, okay, and you're gonna multiply that by the spacing that you originally starting with. Okay, and we're on step 10 for here. All right, determine side adjacent for triangle 3 of conduit 1. Remember, this is the center to center measurement between conduit 1 and conduit 2, like I just mentioned before. Okay, that's what you're starting to do now. Now, in order to do that, okay, it's quite simple. Determine side opposite of triangle 3 for conduit 1. Okay, the side opposite equals to the tangent of the degree of bend divided by 2 times the side adjacent. Okay, the side adjacent is basically just your spacing, and you're going to take whatever degree of bend that you have for that conduit, okay, for conduit 1, and you're just going to divide it in 2. So let's just say, for example, it's a 30-degree bend. You're gonna divide it in 2, and it's now you're going to get the tangent of 15 degrees, and you're going to multiply it by the spacing, which is the side adjacent. Okay, so don't let it confuse you. Sorry about that. Now, 12, double the size. See, this is when it starts to get, this here is when it starts to get a little tricky. All right, so excuse me. So steps 10 to 15, I need you to pay attention, because this is where I might lose you and you might get a little bit confused. All right. So step 12, it basically says double the side opposite measurement of triangle 3 and subtract this measurement from conduit 1's side F measurement. Okay. Now, this becomes side F for conduit 2, all right, which will be F2, okay? Now, before, a few steps back, let me see if I could actually go back, okay? Before, we actually determined this right here in step 7, what the F was, okay, for conduit 1. All right. Now, that there is something that you're going to need to remember. All right. So let me go forward again. And this is that F measurement that it's talking about. All right. Now, I'm trying not to make this as long as, my other videos, so I want to keep it moving because you do have most of the information on the screen that you could pause and read and rewind or do whatever it is that you need to do. And I'm also going to post an example with the numbers and everything because I didn't want to do it on video on my Facebook group, The Art of Conduit Bending, or in my Discord server room called The Announcements. Okay? So I will be posting them there so that you can actually have a live example with the actual numbers and all of the calculations so you could actually go through it there as well. All right? So, moving on to step 13, add the side opposite measurement of triangle 3 to both sides A and B measurements of conduit 1. This becomes side A and B for conduit 2. If you're working with EMT, this step here doesn't really matter. This is more for like rigid where you need an exact, you know, conduit measurement on both sides so that you can thread them ahead of time and actually install it. Now, if this is something that you're doing, then you do need to know these steps so that you can have exact measurements and you'll know exactly how much you're going to be working with at the end. Okay, so step 14, you're determining the degree of bend of conduit 2. Okay, so now, excuse me, I keep doing that. Now, for this one, we're working on conduit 2 now. Okay, so determine the degree of bend of conduit 2. Now you're going to go back to the same steps that you did before. Okay, only now you're going to use some of the numbers that you did earlier. Okay, so S2 divided by F2, which is the same thing. Side opposite divided by the adjacent side is going to give you the tangent of the degree of bend. That degree of bend, okay, you're going to remember, okay, because you're going to need that. Okay, so after you have that, you're going to hold on to that number. You're going to determine side M for conduit 2. How do you do that? You're going to take S2 again, the side opposite, and you're going to divide it by the sign. Okay, now what number, what's the sign? It's the same thing as the tangent of the degree of bend. The same number that you got for the tangent, you're going to take that number and you're going to do that and you're going to use that as the sign, okay, in your calculation when you're using your calculator. Whatever that comes out to is going to be your hypotenuse, which is also side M. Let's go to step 16. Determine the side adjacent for triangle 3. Okay, of conduit 2. Remember, this is the center to center measurement between conduit 2 and conduit 3. All right, triangle 3 is just basically you're trying to figure out what the spacing is going to be, how much you need to add in order for them to be parallel. That's all you're doing. You're doing the parallel adjustment right now. Triangle 3, when you hear that or read that, it's just the parallel adjustment triangle. That's all that is. And as you can see on step 17, that's the formula to find out, how much you need to adjust for your parallel adjustment. All right, so it's side opposite equals the tangent of half the degree of bend times the side adjacent, which is just the spacing in between bends. Same thing that we did a few steps back. All right, now with that, right after that, like we did before, we're going to double the side opposite measurement of triangle 3 and subtract that, okay, by the conduit 2's F measurement. Whatever you get from that, that's gonna be F3 for conduit number 3. Okay, so this is just like a step by step. This all it's repetitive. Okay, so step 19, you're going to add the side opposite measurement of triangle 3 to both sides, A and B, conduit of number 2 measurement. Okay, so this becomes side A and B. Like I said, if you're not gonna use rigid, then you don't really need to worry about this step too much. If you are, then you do. Okay, now I know most of you guys are saying, this seems crazy, it's really long, and it's longer me trying to read it out to you and actually, going through the step with you step by step. After you do this so many times, it's really just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes of using your calculator. It's really not that long. It really isn't. I've done it with the calculator and all that, and it doesn't really take that long. Obviously, it's a lot longer than just doing a regular offset. Obviously. But like I said, when you're dealing with rigid conduit, the time that it takes for you to do this to come out with professional work, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's no comparison. Anyhow, step 20, determine the degree of bend of conduit number 3. There we go again. Going back to the third one, same thing. Side opposite divided by adjacent side, you get the tangent of the degree of bend. Okay, you take that tangent, you put it into the formula for the next step, which is your side opposite divided by the sine. You come up with the hypotenuse. Okay, and so on and so on. All right, now you're coming up to step 22, which is you're going to start to lay out your conduits to start getting them to get bent. Now, find the radius of your bender. This is all things that you should already have done in videos 1, 2, and 3. I teach you how to do that. I'm not going to go over all of this. Determine the developed length of each bend in order for you to figure out where to lay them out. Like I said, I'm not going into all that because this is all in videos 1, 2, and 3. To find the developed lengths, you have the formula right here, but you also have them in videos 1, 2, and 3. I teach you how to find out all those calculations and how to figure them all out and how to actually lay out all your conduits. It's the same steps for every single bend in this advanced method. If you just learn videos 1, 2, and 3, then you don't need to go through all of this. All right. Next slide. Okay. Basically, to figure out the gain, it's the same thing. Like I said, videos 1, 2, and 3, I go over all of this. I'm not going to go over this here because it's the same in every video. Okay. Now, coming towards the end portion of it, all right, to figure out that K value, like I said, videos 1, 2, and 3. To determine the gain for all of these conduits, you go through the same steps, all right, to find the total length needed for all of these. You go through the same steps that I teach you in videos 1, 2, and 3. I'm only here to teach you the actual calculation on how to do the rolling offset. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to give you an example with the numbers, not just how you have it here on the screen. I didn't want to go through it on the screen because it would have made it so much longer, but I'm going to give you and post on the Art of Conduit Bending in my Facebook group and on my Discord. I'm going to post actual files with examples with the numbers so that you can actually cross-reference what you have with the examples to actually make more sense of it if you're having problems with the video. Okay, I'll also help you if you have any questions. The best place to get in contact would be on my Discord. Alright, so like I said, this is the layout portion. Okay, when you get your developed length, which I teach you in videos 1, 2, and 3, you divide it in half, you put your center mark here, and that's where you bend. Alright, now if you see, this is for all 3, and there's nothing to it. The layout portion, I'm also going to go through it with you a little bit towards the layout portion of the video, which I'm going to actually show you a little bit further down in the video, which is coming up soon. As soon as I'm done with these slides, then I'll show you how to actually lay it out. Alright, so for the last few slides here, alright, just a little bit of something for you to read here. Actually, develop length plus the measurement from the starter bend to the front of hook. Like I said, videos 1, 2, and 3, I will actually show you. Sorry about that. Show you. So now, if you want, like I said, I'm going to show you an example with the actual numbers so you can cross-reference. Go to my Discord. You could also find it on my Facebook group, The Art of Conduit Bending, okay? And you will have all the examples there, okay? From step 1 all the way to step 27, you'll have them there, all right? Now, let's take it to the lab, and let me show you how to actually lay this out.
Hey, what's up guys? How you doing? Thanks for joining me over here at the lab where we're gonna actually start to lay out these 3 conduits that I've already showed you on the actual screen, the computer screen, how to actually go about doing all the calculations and whatnot. This is the actual layout portion of that video, okay? So, of this video actually, let me say. So basically, we're just going to go over the layout portion, even though, you know, the advanced method, I've already went over this in your first 3 videos of this playlist. It'll give you all the information that you need to know on the advanced bending method, and as far as the first steps that you need to know, as far as, you know, getting the radius of your bender and finding out the front of hook measurement and whatnot. Those 2, you know, values are something that you're gonna need before you start to lay this out, okay? Now, I'm not gonna go over it as far as, you know, how to grab that information because you already have those videos. But I will try to explain a little bit as I go, okay? So here, when you're going to lay this out, as you see how I already have it laid out here, I have everything in my actual pad. All the information that I need, I already have. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, excuse me. That was a little too much. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, okay, and bear with me. I know, you know, the explanation can be a little bit, you know, long, but in order for me to give you all the information that you need, this is what it is, all right? Now, as I said, okay, all the information that you need, I have it written down. So for conduit 1, the only information that we need to bring to the actual layout portion is our developed length, which I have abbreviated here, DL, all right, which is 3 inches, okay? The fraction of an inch, I'm not even going to bother, you know, counting that in, okay? We need the degree of bend, all right, which is 29.2 degrees, and I have written here, you know, all the actual components, okay? Like as you've seen in the video on the screen, all the diagrams, they have components, and we actually, you know, gave them a value. Like this 12-inch here is A, okay, from the beginning of the conduit to the center of the first bend. Then we have 27.5, which is the in between the 2 center of bends. And lastly, this is from the end of the conduit to the second bend, okay? And last, what you have here is, what we're subtracting here is the 0.12, which is the gain. I'll get further into that, but by now, being that you're this far in the playlist, you should know what all these values are already, okay? And how to go about figuring out the total length, okay? Because this is what that is, actually. This is how you're going to figure out the total length, so that you can actually pre-cut this ahead of time. And if it's rigid, you can thread it or whatnot, okay? Or if it's EMT, you can put your box sets, you know, ahead of time and whatnot, okay? But let's get into it and let's start laying this out. So that I can actually explain this to you, 12 inches, this is our first measurement that we're going to measure from the edge of the conduit to the center of the first bend. And we're going to go ahead and mark that, and then we'll go in, you know, to the second measurement, and I'll show you exactly how you can use this information to lay this out, okay? So our first measurement, as you can see, let me see if I can actually zoom out a little more. All right, our first measurement is 12 inches, okay? We're gonna go ahead and measure those 12 inches, okay? And for here, always use pencil. I don't have a marker on me today, and I like to do it in marker for the video so that you guys can see it, okay? But I don't have it today. We're going to put our mark at 12 inches, okay? And as usual, we're going to go ahead and mark that all the way around, okay? You should know by now, especially if you've been watching my videos, mark them all the way around. It saves you grief, all right? So our second measurement here says for conduit 1, if you can see that, it's 27.5 from the center of your mark, okay, which is this here, to the next mark. So we're going to go ahead and measure that, 27.5. Okay, 27.5 will bring me, let me see if I'm lined up, right here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mark that as well. And we're going to go ahead and take that around the whole conduit. Okay. Now, real briefly, we have our two marks here. This is simply just an offset, okay? But it's parallel offset, so it can get a little bit tricky, all right, with the advanced method. Now, you have here the 0.12, which is our gain, okay? With the advanced method, they use gain to figure out the total length, okay? So with this 0.12, we can actually subtract that from all of these. You can, if you calculate all of this and you subtract the gain, that'll give you the exact length that you need for your actual bend, okay? We're not going to go ahead and do that here because I'm just showing you how to actually do this whole process as far as the parallel rolling offsets. But out in the field, if you're working with rigid, or if you just want it to be exact, then you can go ahead and do that calculation. In other videos, I show you how to actually find out the gain and whatnot. If you can actually skip that whole process if you're working with EMT, or if you just don't need to do it, you can skip that whole process and it'll save you some time. Okay. Now, now that we have our two marks, how do we go about laying it out? Okay. Cause it's not over just yet. Like I have here, we have to include our front of hook measurement, which I have as the FOH. Excuse me. Sorry about that. The FOH, which is 1.5 inches. Okay. Now, in order to include all this and to get our bends correctly, now that being one of the reasons why this is such a good method is if you go over to your first mark, okay, and our developed length, like how we have here, is 3.06. Let's just say it's 3 inches. Okay. Our developed length is 3 inches. So if you put it right on the half mark of that 3 inches, okay, you go ahead and mark that, okay, you're going to have 2 marks on the side of your center mark, okay? That's pretty much it, right? Now, from that mark, this mark right here, where depending on how you're bending it, is the start of your bend. That's where it's going to start bending. And this is where it's going to stop bending. It's going to be the end of your bend. And this obviously is the center of your bend. Now, depending on how you want to bend this, we're going to be bending it in this way. Okay. So that's going to be the front. So in order for me to get this bend directly on the center, I need to add my front of hook measurement. Okay, my front of hook measurement is also 1.5 inches, and I'm going to add that to my start of bend, okay, which is going to be here. Okay, so now give me a minute so I can actually, okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to actually show you, okay. Now, let me see if I can zoom in here. All right, that seems like it's pretty good. All right, you have these 2 marks here. You have your center of the bend, right? And then we just did the developed length, which this is the start of the bend, and this is the end of the bend. And we just added 1.5 inches, which is our front of hook measurement, to the start of the bend. Depending on which way you want to bend it, you want to add that front of hook measurement. Okay, and what that's going to do is we're going to line up that front of hook measurement with the front of the hook of the bender, or whatever bender you're actually using. Okay, and when we bend it, the whole thing is that your center mark is going to actually land right where it's supposed to be. Okay, so you're going to bend it, and that center mark is going to be your center mark. That's where it's going to land. All right, now I won't explain that anymore. I'm going to continue on laying this out, because this is all in the first 3 videos, okay? All of this information is in the first 3 videos. We're deep into the playlist, so we don't need to go over this anymore. I just wanted to give you a refresher in case you're jumping and cheating and skipping all these videos, okay? Now, that center of bend is there. So technically, when I'm laying it out, I don't put the center of bend mark, all the way around. I just do a little dash because I know that later on I'm going to have to put this front of hook measurement. So this is my new front of hook measurement where I'm going to actually place my bender, okay? So this I usually don't have here anymore when I'm using my advanced method, okay? So I technically don't put this, I just put a little dash and I do all my measurements. Sometimes I don't even do that, I can just do it at once, okay? When you get used to the method, you just do it at once, okay? Or you can even go ahead and actually, you know, lay it out here and just, you know, put your front of hook measurement on it, if you know what I mean. Okay, now, with that said, you want to actually, you can also, you know, just do it once here, and then if you add the second measurement, it'll automatically do it to the second bend. Okay, but to not confuse anybody, we're just going to go ahead and actually lay it out the way we've been laying it out. So I got my 1.5 inches. This is where my start of my bend is, okay, plus my other 1.5 inches, okay, for my front of hook. All right, so my bend will be here, okay, and this is my center of my bend, but this is where I'm going to place my actual bender and bend. Okay, so when I'm done bending, this should be the center of my bend. Okay, great. Now I just go ahead and put I like to put a mark here as B. This way we know that's where I'm gonna actually place my bender and A. There you go. All right. Don't let all these marks confuse you. Just so you know, again, this is where I'm placing my actual bender, the front of the bender. We don't use the arrow with the advanced method. Everything is to the front of the bender. Okay, so this is conduit 1, and what we're doing here is, let me zoom back out. What we're doing here is, I have all the information here. I'm going to bend it, to 29.2 degrees. Okay, that's going to be my offset. All right, and then we'll lay out conduit 2 and conduit 3. We're bending them all at different degrees of bends, okay? And if you notice, all right, the A marks tend to get a little bit more, they start to progress, and the center of bends seem to decrease at the same time while the last one increases as well. This is also that when you're doing parallel bends and all of them are basically equal distance, they don't go and touch each other. Okay, so that's the process, and that's the reason why this advanced method is the true way of doing a parallel rolling offset. Okay, because very rarely can you do a parallel rolling offset where all the spaces are equal and you still do the same degree of bends on every single conduit. Very rarely. Okay, if you have a method, please let me know. Shoot me a comment and let me know how it is that you do your parallel rolling offsets where the actual spacing is actually the same distance apart and you're using the same degree for all of your bends, for all the conduits. Please shoot me a comment. Let me know how you do it, okay? This is the only way that I've been able to actually do an equal distance parallel rolling offset, okay? Now, with that said, this is conduit 1. We're gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna do conduit 2. Let's lay out conduit 2 now. Okay, and now for this one here, as you can see, conduit 2, our developed length is 3.98, let's just say 4 inches, all right? And our first mark is gonna be laid out 13.5 inches from the end of the conduit. The second one goes with 26, basically, and a half, and so on, okay? By now, you should know what we're looking at if you've watched all the videos. So let's go ahead and start laying these out, all right? 13.5 inches is my first mark. 13.5, okay? And my developed length is basically 4 inches, okay? So I have to divide that in 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2 inches plus my front of hook measurement. That's going to give me 3.5 inches from the center. Okay. like I said, I'm going to start speeding this up now and doing the math in my head because we should all be on the same page by now. All right, so this is my first mark where I'm going to bend. Okay, and that's going to be A. And from my center, okay, which is here, that's why I just put a little dash, it's going to be 26.5 inches. Okay, that's my second mark, which is basically letter M, if you remember on the actual slides. Okay, so 26.39, which basically I'll call it, I don't know what you guys want to call it, 3/8. Let's call it 3/8. Yeah, let's do that. Let's call it 26 3/8. Okay, from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 26 3/8. And I am right about here. 26 3/8. Okay, now, same thing goes. Okay, nothing changed. The developed length, we're going to divide that in two and split it on either side of the center. That's what we do. Okay, so we have the 2 plus the front of hook measurement gives us 3.5 inches. And depending on which way you want to bend it, you can place it on either side of your center mark. See, that's why this is such a good method here, because if I wanted to, I could actually bend my first bend in one direction, and if it was too short of a pipe, I could actually flip this around and say, you know what, I want to bend it in that direction now and come up this way. Well, since we're bending on center, it doesn't matter. We can bend it in any way we want to because we know where the center is going to land, and we can just switch around our layout to suit us. Okay, so this is going to be B. All right, this is where we're going to place our actual bender, and this is our center mark, where we're just purely using this for the layout. All right, now let me make this a little darker. There you go. All right, excuse me, I didn't have my marker today. I apologize, okay? And usually what we want to do here so that we don't get confused, because this is what I do out in the field too, is I lay out all my conduits and then I bend. All right, this one is going to be number 2. I'll just put I usually at the end of the conduit, I lay out, I put my, what number it is and whatnot, this way we don't get confused. Okay. And lastly, conduit number 3. All right. Now, bear with me. I apologize. I think this one here was already marked. It has some marks on it, but we're going to try to forget about that and look past that. All right. So let's go. Conduit number 3. Our developed length is going to be 5 inches. Let's just call it 5. Okay. And besides that, for conduit number 2, I wanted you to realize that we are bending it at 37.7 degrees, and our first one is 29.2. Okay, that's something else that I also put on my bender. I like to just put the degrees or whatever. You can use whatever method you want. I actually have it written down. This is what I actually bring with me to my bender or or whatnot. I always have this written down. All right, it just makes it easier, and I won't forget. Anyway, lastly, conduit 3 is going to be 5 and a 5-inch developed length with a degree of bend of 48.4. Okay, our first mark is going to be at 15.61. Let's just call it 5/8. 15 5/8 from the end of the conduit, and that'll be the center of our first bend. Okay, and then secondly, we'll measure 25.25 from there. All right, let's go. So now 15 5/8. Okay, guys, don't forget that you can also see me on Reddit and Instagram. I'm always posting daily content, not only on conduit bending, but I've branched out to a lot of other stuff as well. Lutron, mechanical stuff. I'm starting to branch out and just do, a whole array of different content. Go and check it out and let me know what you think. I'm also on Discord. Join my server. I haven't been able to go live lately, but I plan on going back live next month. All right. Next, 15 5/8. Okay, let me get this on here again. Okay, 15 and 5/8. I just like to put a little dash there. All right. Now, same thing over here. Our developed length, we're going to divide that in two, which our developed length is going to be 5 inches, like we said. So, divided by 2, that's 2.5, right? Plus the 1.5 is going to give us 4 inches. Okay. So 4 inches from the center because we want to bend it, you know, in this direction. Okay, because if I wanted to bend it up this way, I could put it, my mark that way. All right. So we can, you know, change it however you want it, whatever suits you. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and put my bend mark here where my actual bend is going to go. All right. Now I can actually put that all the way around. Like I said, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is all in the first 3 videos, okay? It explains it in length, and I get elaborate with it in case you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you forget. The first 3 or 4 videos of this playlist, Advanced Bending Method, will explain everything that you need to know as far as getting the gain, as far as finding out how to find out the radius of your bender, how to get the front of hook measurement, which is all important. Watch those first 3 videos, okay? Next is our second measurement, okay, which from what I see here is 25 and a quarter, okay, 25 and a quarter. All right, so from the center measurement, from the center mark, okay, which is right here, all right, I just made a dash just to use it for the layout. We're going to go 25 and a quarter. 25 and a quarter will leave me right here. Okay. And then we're going to add the 4 inches, okay? Because we have, don't forget, we're dividing the developed length in 2. So it's 2.5, okay, plus the 1.5 for the front of hook measurement. All right. So that will leave me right here. Now I can go ahead and mark this all the way around. Mark that all the way around like that. And that's it. All right. I have my 3 conduits laid out. Okay. This last one is going to be at 48.4 degrees. Okay. That's going to be my offset degree of bend. All right. That's what I'm bending both of my bends at. All right. Now, one thing I want to let you know is when you're bending it with a hand bender, okay, you're going to use a digital, you know, a digital level. And that's how you can get these, you know, non-standard degrees. Okay. If you're lucky enough and you're on an electric bender and you can use an electric bender, that's even better because you can just punch in the degree that you want and just bend it. And that makes it a lot easier. Or if you're on a table bender, then same thing. Okay. You can bend it to whatever degree you want. If you're using a hand bender, it's a little bit differently because you're going to have to, like, you know, kind of bend and see where you're at, but it works. Okay. And today I'm not going to bend it on video because you guys have seen me bend, you know, offsets or whatnot. It's just a regular offset. Okay. Except you're going to be using this to bend it with a hand bender. That's all. That's all it is. Okay. So we have our 3 conduits laid out. Okay, I'm going to bend this and I'm going to come right back to you. All right? Hang out. Okay, so now we're back. I have them all bent. Okay, so let me see if I could actually zoom out a little bit. All right, now if you see there, they're all bent. And you can see that they're all bent to different degrees. Okay, now that's not the spacing that it has to be exactly because it's a parallel rolling offset. So you got to give me some time. I'm going to set it up on the actual support, on the Kindle support, and strap it up so that we could actually see how they look when they're actually on the rack supported. Okay. And the spacing, as you know, on the slides are going to be 6 inches apart. So basically pretty much just about this much here. Okay. But when it changes the planes, it's supposed to be very close to 6 inches apart as well. And they're not supposed to be touching. All right. Now, give me a little bit and I will come back right now. Okay guys, so this is the end result. It's not the best, but it's what I can actually do now. They're all spaced out at 6 inches, all right? Now, they're not perfect, as you can see, because of how I'm holding it. You know, I got a clamp. I didn't have a long enough strut to put on the other side, but this is the true parallel rolling offset. And you know, when you're not gonna have 6-inch spacing on 3/4 pipe out in the field. But anyways, this is the actual true parallel rolling offsets. All right. I apologize for the setup, but this is all I had. I'm not at the job. Anyway, this is it. And the hardest part is just getting used to the actual calculations. After you get the calculations down pat, then you should be okay. All right, and pretty much, you know, this is the best way to do it if you know the calculations to do a parallel rolling offset, because you know all the degrees are going to end up being different. Actually, as you can see, the first one, it's a slight degree, and the middle one, you know, the degrees change. It gets up a little bit more deeper and deeper as the actual conduits start coming from the outside. All right, guys.